Midnight Hound Audio presents Dogfight by Darren Almgren. Read by the author. Less than 1,000 feet from the river that marks a portion of the winding river Canada shares with Minnesota is a warehouse few know about. Of those that know, only a dozen are allowed without an invitation. If management detects anyone stepping onto the property, whether a well-intentioned pair of missionaries, a suspicious neighbor, or a patrolling police officer, they are shot dead before they can get past the no trespassing sign. From there, they remove the body, scoop away the blood-stained patch of grass, and make use of the wood chipper just off the riverbank. On nights like tonight, however, visitors are permitted. A fleet of passenger vans and one decommissioned school bus brings guests on property. No one knows exactly what is in store. Regulars assure those who grumble about the production to drive to the backwoods that it's worth the price of admission. Admission is a bet placed on one side or the other of a tossed quarter, with a minimum threshold of $10,000. Only one word sums it up. Fight. The driver of the bus rolls his eyes as the group of drunk idiots with McAllister College sweaters rip through yet another Queen song. The drive from the regional airport in Bemidji is long enough without a bunch of trust fund kids butchering one classic after another. He wonders if management will go gladiator again and throw one of them into the fight. If it saves them from another trip of tone-deaf singing, it'd be worth it. The bus and vans deposit nearly 75 curious and excited patrons. Every person aboard leaves on the seat on which they arrived. No private escorts, no leaving early because of a family emergency, and no ambulances. When they enter the unassuming warehouse, they come into a vast, open space. The concrete floor patches are like scar tissue from anchor holes of machines and balers. A cash bar sits on one end, not much more stocked than a hotel bar that thinks a Cuba Libre is exotic. If you ask for a Sex on the Beach or a Rosewater Ricky, you're handed a Jack and Coke or a lukewarm imported beer and told to fuck off. While the thirsty beeline to the bar, the rest go towards the cage in the center of this dimly lit warehouse. The cage, its bars embedded in the concrete floor, extends 10 feet high. From a distance, it seems to be rebar, oddly polished to a shine that glints in the low light. When the crowd gets closer, they see the thin silver wires twisted and soldered to the hardened steel beams. Management learned long ago not to skimp on the silver. They will not allow another massacre to happen. 2 catwalks straddle the cage, crisscrossing above the arcing top with brightly painted yellow safety railings. Handful of spectators with a strong god complex climb the steps to watch the night's proceedings like little boys looming over an anthill. Below them seems to be a black abyss devoid of anything, even a bottom. The floodlights explode into life when their motion sensors are triggered. They make the silver wires shine like little filaments of moonlight. All lights inside are motion censored. This, management says, is to ensure no one accidentally leaves the lights on. Every crack, loose pebble, and gouge is thrust into stark clarity in the concrete pit below. Dug out of the foundations, the pit is another 10 feet below where the cage is cemented into the floor. Some think about old adventure tales with pits of snakes in them before they see the dark bloodstains and think of gladiators or cockfights. As is natural with humans, small groups form as they congregate around the cage. Those who know each other, regulars, those with similar apparent social status or tax brackets, and those with the same anticipation or unease. Half a dozen college jocks, already drunk, place bets on who'll win tonight's show. These wagers are in the form of humiliating acts the loser can perform at the frat house or streaking across campus. Their voices get louder with each childish dare. This trip was explained away as a fun dude weekend in the Northwoods, if anyone asks. None of the boys will remember much of tonight, even when one of their fathers cuts them off due to the gaping $20,000 charge on the credit card statement. A man in a baseball hat pulled low on his forehead stands in the back of the crowd. It's been over a year since he's gone by his real name or his badge number. His time working his way into management's good graces, like grease working into the threads of a turning screw, has culminated in tonight's invitation. 2 nights from tonight, he will disappear from their operations and set a series of dominoes falling that will see this pit filled in with industrial-grade concrete. 2 weeks before the bust, he will, as they say in his precinct, eat his gun. Surrounded by elites talking about summer homes and stock prices is a man who has never seen a comma in his bank account until a month ago. That $10,000 book advance looked like a fortune, a ticket out of his shared apartment, until he met with his local writers group and found this research opportunity worth 3 books. After tonight, he will only publish cookbooks. He'll still owe the $10,000 for a horror novel he'll never write. Those familiar with these kinds of events expect the most exotic thing to be in the ring is a spotted Dalmatian. Those who'd seen dogfights in movies or documentaries expect Great Danes or Mastiffs frothing at the mouth. Mingling in the crowd are 3 vendors, each with trays of shooter bottles and plastic cups. When asked about the chocolates piled on the trays, handed out with each purchase, the girls say they're to liven things up. Some suspect they're drugs, or laced with something to take the edge off their guilt, those who have any. It falls to the few regulars to explain it to their friends. Lastly, like all regulatory fights, there is an announcer and a physician. The physician is just there to verify the absence of a pulse. The announcer wears too much cologne and is one of the few men in the 21st century who earnestly wears pomade. "Ladies and gentlemen," he says in a voice that barely got him through vocal training, "tonight is a special event. 3 contenders wait to meet our champion. Will his 7th month reign end? And will one of our challengers prove to be the strongest in the Northwoods? Let us see!" A silence hangs in the warehouse as he pauses, takes out a card, and reads, "Our first runner-up is from just south of our fair twin cities. He's the suburban Silvertooth. Give him a round of applause." The jocks pump their fists and howl as everyone else claps and cheers. A door built into the side of the pit opens. Some of the applause stops as 2 men in black coveralls walk in, dragging a bound and gagged figure. The boy struggles to keep up as the men take him to the south end of the pit. One man unfolds the chair from under his arm, and the other forces the boy to sit. They tie the ropes knotted to his arms and ankles to the chair, and remove the wadded-up washcloth taped to his mouth. The men leave. Light bounces off the fresh tears on the boy's bruised face. Before anyone can hear more than a ragged sigh, the man with the pomade turns his microphone on again. "Fighting out of the north corner is our lightweight champion," the announcer says in a growl. "Direct from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, give it up for Fighting Bull!" His voice is a far cry from Bruce Buffer as he roars the name and the door opens again. The man who walks out is alone and the door slams shut behind him. He wears loose-fitting black sweats and a cheap t-shirt. His bronze skin is rough and clammy. His hair is a graying braid down his back. His 2 missing toes on his left foot, thick scars, and slight limp tell the crowd this is a veteran of the arena. Several regulars cheer. As soon as the man reaches the opposite end, the floodlights shut off. Everyone goes silent except for one jock who starts booing until a heavy fist sinks into his gut. A skylight in the roof opens as 2 men slide panels of roofing away. Manpower, management says, is more reliable and cheaper than a mechanical device. You can't break the kneecaps of an automatic gearbox if it fails to follow orders. A square of white shines down in beams as moonlight pours into the pit. The silver wires of the cage glow, and for a moment, some mistake it as beautiful. The instant the light touches the 2 in the pit, both start screaming. Those who looked up to watch the skylight open and admire the stars clustered around the bright full moon snap their attention back down. The floodlights burst back into life as the 2 writhe and their bodies begin to change. It's nothing like the movies. Those who had made the connection between the silver wires and the cage expect it to be almost instantaneous. There's no fur to coat the morphing bodies in a shaggy carpet. There's nothing to hide what happens. First, the bones break. All 206 of them snap in several places. The flesh seems to boil as the muscles detach and roll up under the skin, then flex to find the reattachment nodes. The skin tears in places where it simply cannot stretch anymore, as the structure beneath extends and the muscles swell into their new shapes. Like in the Garden of Gethsemane, blood seems to leak from every pore and stain the concrete. The boy, Tim, his parents named him, his body, unused to the change, passes out just as his writhing, growing body bursts from its ropes. The men in the police uniforms had said that they were taking him home. When they turned onto the highway and sped north, Tim understood he would never see home again. He misses his parents. He misses his mother's perfume and his dad's tobacco smoke every minute. Right now, he misses the absence of pain. The boy crumples to the floor. Those that bet on him boo, jeering at the unconscious thing like a disappointing horse at a track. Some throw their plastic cups of liquor at the creature until a deep voice on the PA system orders them to stop. Fighting Bull, his real name long since abandoned, having gone through 10 years of the change already, stands for as long as he can manage. Sweat mixes with the blood on his copper skin. Even as his femurs break and his heels stretch beyond their natural limits, he stays upright until one of his vertebrae cracks and sends him falling onto his hands and knees. Claws curl from his nail beds, his face changes into a short muzzle, and his screams turn into howls of agony. The wolf takes shape in the blinding light until, impossibly alive, it stands on all fours, looking up with dark, amber eyes. Cheers erupt from the crowd, even those thinking they'd bet on a dead horse. Seeing these bare-skinned monsters is thrilling enough. The wolf growls, then lunges up to the edge of the pit. It is hungry. The crowd's cacophony pounds at its head, a hammer beating into a melon. Its claws make purchase, and the wolf reaches for a hold on the twisted bar of the cage. Its elongated paws wrap around the bar for a moment, then the beast yelps and falls back. It licks at the third-degree burns growing on its palm where the silver had dug in. More cheers. The smaller wolf opens its dark brown eyes and lurches to its feet. A wave of renewed cheers nearly make it fall back down. There isn't anger or even hunger in its eyes. It darts around, lips curling in fear of the light, the noise, and the pain. As the old truism goes, a scared animal is 10 times more dangerous than an angry one. The young werewolf goes to climb the cage, trying at any gap it thinks big enough to squeeze through. It manages to grip onto the bars, straining through the pain as its flesh sizzles against the silver and shoves its muzzle through a gap. A spectator, An investment banker trying to impress his mistress, who clutches at him horrified, kicks the wolf's muzzle with a smooth-soled Oxford. "Come on," groans a heavy-set man near the bars, unimpressed with the revelation of living horror movie monsters. "Get on with it, or I want my money back." Several people agree, but none believe a refund is a viable threat. Not even the most skilled lawyer could get them out of the novel thick contracts they signed yesterday. Instead, one woman takes a handful of chocolate and chucks it into the pit. Her wife grumbles over the waste of each dark chocolate truffle. Below, the sweets bounce off the head of the younger wolf. Werewolves are not built for chocolate. Like their canine cousins, chemicals and cocoa beans are toxic. But their reactions are not as mundane as the indigestion and organ malfunction of dogs. Like everything a werewolf eats, it is processed through its digestive system and metabolized quickly, taking almost instant effect. The young wolf sniffs at the small truffles. Possibly thinking of medicine, or simply food, it laps two of them up, swallowing them whole. It barely takes a minute. Goosebumps erupt all over the wolf's skin as it shakes its head violently, as if warding off a swarm of wasps. The skin around its eyes swells, obscuring its vision down to pinpricks, which, in tandem with the bright floodlights, effectively blinds it. Receptors shut off in its brain, and confusion sets in. Where it is, the echoing cheers and the dark shadow a dozen or so feet away produce a new, overpowering thought. It is in danger. The wolf keeps its swollen eyes trained on the shadow across the way as it begins to pace. Like a jaguar in a 19th century zoo, it goes back and forth, ready to defend itself. Another 20 handfuls of chocolate cascade into the pit. Some bounce off the young wolf, who flinches and snarls at them, to the crowd's delight. Some land near Fighting Bull. The older wolf licks them up just as oblivious to their effects as the other. Within a minute, it is in the same sorry, scared state. Fighting Bull gags and vomits up most of its stomach contents. The motion, sounds, and smell of the vomit trigger the young wolf. It runs straight towards the other. Claws tear into flesh, scratch grooves into the floor, and long dagger teeth go for the throat. The humans above cheer at the carnage, egging their chosen gladiator on. This is a mere dogfight now. The beasts wrestle across the floor, soaking it in fresh blood and foaming saliva. Size, at first, seems king. Fighting Bull drives into its rival like an avalanche, knocking the young wolf with a sweep of its massive paws. But time wears on the old faster than the young. The lightweight champion's energy fails first. A powerful swat from Fighting Bull knocks its opponent into the wall. More cheers, more boos, more chocolates in the hope of fueling the viciousness, but it goes ignored. Both wolves have tasted blood, received damage, and intend to be rid of their attacker. Fighting Bull shakes its head more, a new sense of delirium setting in. It lashes out at nothing as it relives the morning he was captured. The human who had just gotten a handle of the change fought hard that day, which only made management want him more. Fighting Bull swipes at shadows and a distant memory. The young wolf creeps towards the thrashing wolf, and a hush follows over the crowd. Fighting Bull slams hard into the wall, fighting its own shadow. It's over in a minute, as the young wolf leaps, grabs Fighting Bull's throat with both front paws, and pulls it down, claws deep in the other's flesh. Blood soaks both bodies as Fighting Bull finally falls, dead, beneath the other. The pool of red spreads around them. The young wolf limps slightly, the burns from the silver still throbbing with each step. It hears the cheering, the defeated groans, and understands none of it. This victory is not the wolf's. In nature, a wolf might feel pride in its kill. This pit is farther from nature than anywhere a wolf might exist. A feathered dart seems to just appear on its right leg, then another on its bloody neck. The beast staggers for a moment, then collapses in the blood of its defeated foe. 8 burly men flood in from the door. There's quiet as everyone watches them check the bodies. They take the sleeping wolf and the corpse away as well rehearsed as a play chaining scenery. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer says from his place atop the cage, your new lightweight champion, Silver Lightning. The crowd cheers, a group starting a chant of the young wolf's new moniker. The men in the black coveralls carry the two wolves down a narrow hall carved through the warehouse's foundations and into a basement room below the old office. They thrust the unconscious wolf into a cage in one corner, while the dead one is hauled up a set of stairs and out of a pair of storm doors. The four other people in the other cages stare at the sleeping beast. Another set of workmen bind and gag the next pair of fighters and drag them down the same hallway. The smell of blood makes one vomit. 100 feet away, the workmen lay the dead wolf in the dirt and drag a panel of corrugated iron aside, revealing another pit. This one is deeper than the fighting ring, but barely bigger than the wolf's body. Fuck! Grants the skinnier of the two men when the corpse lets out a sound like a growl. He whips out a heavy steel baton and wails on the beast's head until he draws blood. It's already dead. Calm down, the other grunts. Haven't you ever heard of how dead bodies make noises? I've had a few of these things fart on me a couple times. Just gas leaving through the most convenient exit. I thought they'd change back, the first says. You know, back to humans? These aren't humans, kid, says the other, pulling out lines from management's usual refrain. You can't believe everything in the movies. They sling the body into the pit like a sack of mulch. A cloud of ash plumes around it when it lands, and the two place the iron cover on again. In the morning, a liter of lighter fluid will be dumped into the pit, and a match thrown will light the thick fumes. The four lupine bodies will burn until only ash remains. At the end of the next fight, the middleweight bout, the announcer bestows the woman whose wolf tears her opponent's leg off the title Black Widow. The last fight, the wolf management calls Samson, defeats its foe but bleeds out from a tear in a femoral artery. There is no heavyweight champion this month. The crowd leaves an hour before sunrise. The jocks howl on the bus before they eventually pass out to everyone's relief. The writer whips out his notebook and writes as furiously as he can, but is unable to decipher a word of it the next afternoon. He wouldn't have gotten far with it, in any case. Management's private investigators, their bloodhounds, are more diligent than even the shrewdest tabloid reporter. Deadlier, too. In the morning, management makes arrangements, follows up on leads, and ensures a full roster for next month's event. We hope you've enjoyed this recording of Dogfight by Darren Almgren, presented by Midnight Hound Audio.